Yeah, hello traders. Welcome to another week of trading. We're going to be looking at what may most likely happen in the coming week. That's it from May 5 to May 10. And I've already sent this to you guys. I've already sent this. Let me just yeah. So I've already sent this to you guys in a group. And if you want to be part of this, you are watching this on YouTube and you want to be part of this, you can definitely join us through the WhatsApp link available below this video. And so I'll be running us through what I have in mind for the coming week. Just like I told you guys, I'm going to be doing this periodically going forward. Right now, I'm going to be making it every week. So we are much more prepared ahead to look at what is most likely going to be happening in the course of the week, even before that happens. So there's going to be some kind of news that we'll be expecting this week. I've already filtered it for this week, and then we are on the major news event. I filter out the major news event, and then the time is West Africa +1 Nigerian time. And so, starting with the Swiss francs, we'll be expecting the Swiss francs on Monday around 7:30 a.m. I'm not going to be bothered about this because I won't have started trading yet. So, but the fundamentals surrounding this is that we expect the forecast is that we have a forecast of 0.2%, which is much more than the previous one, which is 0%. And so there's an expectation of a bullish Swiss francs, most likely. And if that happens, we are going to be looking at selling US dollars Swiss francs. That's USD Swiss. And then by 3 p.m., we're going to be having news event ISM services PMI. And then I'm going to be explaining all these things. We already have them here, and the summary are going to be given to us later on in the course of this presentation. I just want to quickly run us through all the news event that we're going to be having by Tuesday, 11:45 p.m. That's around the very night of our time. I'm also not going to be affected about this New Zealand news, and then on Wednesday, 7 p.m. That's where we are going to be having very, very interesting news that you don't want to be caught in the crossfire when this happens. Where we're going to be having the federal fund rate and the FOMC statement being announced. And I think that it may most likely strengthen the US a little, but the overall bias still remains bearish, which we are going to be seeing very soon. And then on Thursday, we have the pounds. And then for pounds, I also think that they're going to be, I don't know if they're going to be cutting the rates or maintaining the rates as it is, but it's most likely going to be maintained. And then on Friday, we're looking at the card news. And so this is how the news event that we're going to be having the coming week for the major news event. And so it usually makes sense to start with an idea of what the fundamental outlook looks like before we then go to the technical setup. So, based on the projections, like I said, I've sent this to you guys. Based on the projection of what we have here, right here, we're expecting that the Swiss franc is going to most likely be bullish on Monday, and then on that same Monday, we expect that the USD may be bearish, and so we should watch out for ISM miss and the US short bias. So if that happens, we are going to be going bearish on the USD. And then on Tuesday, which is May 6th, the New Zealand news is also going to be coming up. And then I'm expecting a bearish result for that, based on rising unemployment. And so which means that New Zealand USD, for instance, I'm not going to be taking it because USD is expected to be weak to some extent this week. And so you want to be looking at a pair like GDP New Zealand and maybe Australia, New Zealand, all those other strong related to the New Zealand, you can trade that. But for me, I don't usually trade the New Zealand. And then, but I will look at the setup on GDP New Zealand. If it's something that will interest me, I'll check that out. And then on Wednesday, we'll be having FOMC, and then we expect it to. I will just say it's going to be neutral, but at the end of it all, because the technical setup and the overall bias for the USD currently is bearish. So after the news event, we may most likely be looking at the possibility of going short on some certain USD related pair. And then on Thursday, so remember that on Monday through Wednesday, there's a possibility that pounds may have been strong, and then now a possibility that on Thursday may be pulling back, where we expect a possibility of a rate cut, which is based on the pressure on the GDP. But if they maintain, they maintain the interest rate and don't cut it, then you may still expect that GDP will be continue to be strong. And then on that same Thursday, you also have unemployment claims, USD news, and then we expect that to be to some extent bullish. Remember that USD will most likely will have been bearish from that Monday to Thursday, and there's a possibility that around that time it may then start going bullish. And then finally, on Friday, we are going to be having the card news, and then it's most likely going to be a recovery because card may have also been bearish all the while before it then eventually starts getting a rebound, which we are going to be seeing very, very soon. But then that will be conditional on the job recovery. So if the news comes out and then there's no job recovery for the card, then we may continue the bearish trend. So, in summary, for the USD, we expecting stable jobs, Feds on high, and then possible bullish tone to some extent, but overall still remains bearish for that. And then for the Swiss francs, inflation pickup could support SMB hawkishness. And then for the CAD, potential employment recovery. And then for the odds, we don't have any data for the odd right now, but then, just like I told you, I would look at the New Zealand. They have very close economy, and so there's possibility of trading GDP New Zealand, especially if New Zealand becomes very weak. And then for the pounds, right here, if there's a rate cut, then it may weaken the GBP, that's the pounds. But if there's no rate cut, then you expect bullish trend to continue on the pound. And then last but not least is the New Zealand. And then we're expecting it that there's every tendency that it may be bearish. And then we want to see the possibility of buying the GDP New Zealand. So overall, have to clear. The dollar has declined. That's 9% year to date amid protectionist policies and a potential US exit from the IMF unsettling global investors. So there are still some kind of uncertainty regarding the USD, which is why I am pegging it to bearish to neutral for now. And then for the so I've sent all this to you guys. So I'm expecting bearish to neutral for USD and then moderately bullish on the pound based on all this fundamental analysis. And the neutral to be bearish for the yen, and then possibility of being continued bearish on the CAD, and then neutral on Australian because there's not much news data that has been released in the recent times surrounding it. Although the currency has been soaring high for the past 1 to 2 weeks right now. And I feel it's going to be slowing down a little. We are going to be looking at it very soon. And then for the Swiss francs, neutral to bearish, I'm trying to avoid trading US dollar Swiss francs altogether. So this is the summary right here: bearish to neutral, GDP monetary bullish, yen neutral to bearish, CAD bearish, and then Australia neutral. And then we are going to look at how all this will interplay in what we'll be trading this week. But for me, I'm looking at going long on USD, GDP USD, and then also going long on pounds yen, going long on pounds CAD because we're expected to be having a bullish pounds. And then for gold, remember that it's usually negatively correlated to pounds. I said the pounds to USD. So most of the time, when USD becomes very weak, then it strengthens gold. And so if the strength of USD becomes weak, then we are going to be looking at the possibility of going long on gold. Then long also on GDP AUD. The reason is because pounds have been kind of very strong and may continue bullish trend going forward. And then Australia may most likely slow down a little, despite the fact that it has been very bullish over the period. And then for US dollar Japanese yen, it's going to be conditional on Japanese strength. So if yen becomes stronger at any time, we only want to look at the possibility of selling US dollar Japanese yen. And then US dollar CAD for this one is also only conditional on the CAD setup if we have any technical strength that supports it. But for this, I'm not going to be trading it unless there's a very good signal from CAD. For NASDAQ, we are looking at the tone. Let's watch out for the tone of the FOMC on Wednesday. That will determine whether we're going to be going long on US on NASDAQ or not. And then for Australian Australian AUD, it's not clear cut, so I'm not taking that. And then CAD JPY2 is not clear cut. Remember, CAD may be weak and also yen may be weak, so it's not so that clear. And then Swiss francs is also very neutral, so I'm trying to avoid it altogether unless the news of Monday, that's tomorrow, is strong enough to be much more stronger than the effect on the USD. So in which case we can look at possibility of going short on US dollar Swiss franc. But for now, I don't think that I want to go with that yet. So now, with this understanding, we can then proceed to the index chart to try to understand the technical setup that we have on the index chart. And then after that, we then proceed to the charts of all the different currencies and then look at the technical setup and how to trade them for the coming week. Yeah, so as usual, we're going to be starting with the US dollars index. And then for the US dollars index, if you remember that I told you that we got to a key resistance, a key support zone, which was around here, and then price was bouncing back. And I also told you that there's a possibility that we may most likely be having some, turnaround around it that may look like this, which is what is currently forming right now. Price has touched this resistance and support level, and then it has gotten to this resistance area, and they may expect some kind of pullback. Even if it's going to be going on, we expect some kind of pullback before it then eventually go up. But for now, I'm not even looking at the possibility of it going up right now. I'm just going to be looking at the possibility of a bearish continuation. So, like I said, we have gotten to this resistance area, and then we are looking at a bounce around here for a continued sell setup. Now, if you remember from the fundamental analysis that we did, if you remember that the fundamental does not support a bullish USD until maybe around Wednesday or Thursday after the FOMC, depending on the tone of the FOMC. So for now, we are just going to be looking at the possibility of selling the US dollars. So now the technical setup that we have here is quite very, very simple to read. I'm just going to push this one up a little. Initially, I told you guys that once we fail to have the breakout of the inverse shoulder pattern, once we fail to break out from this point, then it means that there's a possibility that we are actually going to be going down. And so during the course of the week, price got to the neckline around this area, around this zone. Price got to that neckline, and it did that if it was going to be breaking it somewhere around here, but it got there and then didn't break it. If it's going to be breaking it, it's most likely going to have closed above that neckline, but no, it didn't break it. So now we're going to be looking at the alternative setup that we are most likely going to be having, which I told you that we should be looking at something that looks very similar to this. And so based on this, we expect that we are having a diagonal structure, which I'm going to be restructuring this away from the neckline to something that slopes down a little, in which case we are going to be expecting something that looks like this. And then possibility of price first coming up here a little and then dancing all the way down to the monthly support one zone. So with that, we now have an idea of what to look out for in the coming week. And like I said, nobody knows exactly what is going to be happening, but you don't want to be caught unaware by the time that is happening. That's why we are speculating down so that by the time we start forming, we know exactly what to do. And so the next one we are going to be looking at is the pounds. Let's take the pound before we go to the yen. So for the pounds, this one is on the, let's go to the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, as you can see, price seems to be in an upward um, structure right here. Seems to be in an upward structure, and then it got to somewhere around this zone. Got to somewhere around this zone right here. It got to somewhere around this zone, and then is reacting, and until when it breaks below that point, that is when the structure would change. But for now, we are still expecting that we have this to be the first shoulder, and then this to be the second shoulder, and then giving us something that looks like that formation for us to keep on going upwards right there. So we are going to be looking at the possibility of a bullish GDP and GBP. And then if you remember that the fundamental also supports that pounds may most likely be strong, will continue being strong in the coming week. And so based on that, what we expect right here is that even though it's going to be going up, you may first expect that price may react around this area first. That means coming to somewhere around here before eventually then bouncing off. So if that is going to be the case, then we're going to be looking at that bullish setup. Yeah, so based on that, we can now begin to look at the possibility of a bullish setup for the pounds. So for that, what we are supposed to do, let me just take out this. Let me clear this drawing. So what we are supposed to do right here is to then go to the GDP USD and look at the technical setup that we have right there. Let's go to the GDP USD. So this is the GDP USD right here. And then right here, you can see that we seem to have gotten to a support zone, and then price has been moving bullish all this while. So if you look at it, you see that price have actually been moving bullish all this while, and then now it seems to be pulling back a little, and then after that, we may expect price to then continue that bullish trend. And so, but let's start from the higher time frame, maybe the 4 hours or the one or the daily time frame. So on the daily time frame, it is clear bullish, and then sorry about that. So it is clear bullish. And then the reason why I have this line drawn right here is the possibility of we having a sideways movement for some time before price decide on the next one right here. So most likely what we have around here is most likely what we're going to be expecting around the price possibly to before it continue the trend. So so based on that, let's just go to the 4 hours time frame and also the 1 hour time frame to look at what we can see. So right here, we can see that price has got into a resistance, a support line, sorry. And then if it breaks that support line, the next area that we are most likely going to be looking at getting in for the entry is this second line right here. And so based on that, we're expecting that price may most likely descend in that manner, which I'm going to be drawing right here. This descend in this manner right there. So we can look at how to then get in the course of the week. So in the course of the week, when price gets to somewhere around this area, that's when I'll be looking at taking a buy position. when price gets to somewhere around this area, then I'll be looking at getting into the trade. So for me, I'm going long on the pounds USD upon clear structure. And so let's then look at the next one, which is the yen. And so for the yen, like I told you that when this is moving up, it means that yen is weak. And then when it is moving down, it means yen is strong. So all this while you would see, and you can confirm that all this while yen has been weak. And so when all this was happening, yen has been weak. That's why you see that GDP, JPY has been going long. And if we also check the JPY, most likely it has also been going long. So for now, what I'm just going to do is to try to stay away from buying yen until when it is very clear. And then the what do you call it? The fundamental setup that we have also suggests suggests a neutral to bearish yen, even though the technical is suggesting a neutral to bullish. Neutral to bullish in the sense that if you look at this, you'll see that we are most likely around this zone where price may most likely get to this point and then pull back a little, which is why for the technical setup, it is neutral to bullish. Remember, when it's going down, it's bullish. But for the technical setup, it is neutral to bearish. That means there's no fundamental that supports the strength of the Japanese yen for now. And so what I will most likely be looking at is price getting to this zone first. So when price aims to get to this zone, then we can look at trading the US dollar Japanese yen and also the pounds yen. So let's look at what we have on the US dollar Japanese yen and also the pounds yen. For the US dollar Japanese yen right here, when yen was weak, you can see that the US dollar Japanese yen was actually trading bullish, and so it's still looking further bullish to some extent, despite the fact that yen USD is not that strong over the course of the week, but you can still see that the yen was so weak to the extent that the US dollar was pushing it further up, and so I think that for me, I want to stay away from trading US dollar Japanese yen. But if I have to then trade this, I'll be looking at going long on US dollar Japanese yen. If it comes to retest this area right here, if we retest this area, then I'll be looking at going long up to this point, up to that point. That is what I'm most likely going to be able to do. So the only setup that I'm going to be able to trade on this pair is just to go long, especially because US dollars, especially because yen is weak, and so it's weak to the extent that if you look at the chart right there, you see that it's still supposed to come to somewhere around this area before it then eventually becomes strong. So based on that, by the time it continues to be weak, this would happen. Then after that, we can then look at selling the US dollar Japanese yen later on. So the next one I want to look at is pounds yen. So let's look at pounds yen. So for pounds yen too, this is also a clear bullish trend. As you can see, price have been moving upwards, and then you expect that if yen continues to be weak, then you expect that this will continue pushing up. Let's look at the structure that we have on a daily time frame. On a daily time frame, I think that most likely price will most likely get to that zone, this area right here. Price will most likely get there. And so let's go to the 4 hours time frame to see whether we have. Let's go to the 4 hours time frame to see whether we have any key pivot area. Okay, I think we will most likely be having one very soon. And so we are looking at price getting to somewhere around here, or yes, somewhere around there, which is going to be this area, or at the very least, somewhere around here. So based on that, let's see, we have it confluencing with the key pivot areas, yes, which is most likely going to be this. And so the best way to be able to trade this is to look for that structure that we're going to be having that we're most likely going to be having very, very soon. That means if price gets to this point, that means price pushing up to this point and then coming all the way down. So if price get to this area and then push it all the way down to this point, then you want to be getting inside that trade because that's going to be giving you that structure that we usually like to see before we go long, which is going to be the inverse shoulder pattern. So if I'm going to be taking that trade, especially on Monday, there's every tendency that price may most likely have gotten here before I even want to get in. So we have to wait for it to pull back a little, so somewhere around this zone before we look at getting in. But then the overall trade bias remains bullish. Okay, so based on that, we can now go to the next index, which is going to be the CAD. So for the CAD, fundamentally, CAD has been very weak, although in the recent period it pushed up a little. This is the daily time frame. I just reached the weekly time frame right now. And right there, you would see that price actually got to a very key support zone. And then it got to a very key support zone around here and then pushed back. There's every tendency that it's going to come back to retest that zone. Price don't just turn immediately, can't get into key area. There's every tendency that it's going to come back to retest that zone, even if it wants to start going bullish. So then, based on that, we may most likely be looking at a bearish CAD. And so, because of that, I'm looking at where we are going to be getting into the trade from. Um, I think I would like to get into the trade from somewhere around here, which is going to be a very key resistance area right here, a very key resistance area. So when is this going to happen? By the time you have CAD going up in this manner, even though we know that it's going to be bearish after some time, but most likely going to first do some kind of bullish movement to somewhere around here before it eventually starts selling. So when that happens, we want to look at how to trade the US dollar CAD, which is going to be this. Let's go to US dollar CAD. So on the US dollar CAD, you can see that, let's go to the 4-hour time frame. You can see that we have a bearish trend on the US dollar CAD, which means that all the while that US dollars have been weak, CAD has been strong, and then it has made this to be coming down. However, we are getting to see something that's forming around here, which is looking like a reversal structure right there. So what happened is this: as at the time that the US dollars CAD, as at the time that the CAD index is strong, you expect this movement to the downside. And then by the time CAD becomes very weak, I don't know when US is going to be strong, but by the time CAD becomes very weak, then you may start having the proper reversal of US dollar CAD happening. So I'm going to be saying that for this one, you should be expecting a bearish structure, then followed by a bullish reversal, which is going to be very, very sharp, especially on Friday when we are going to be having the CAD news. So on Friday, when we are going to be having a CAD news, there's every tendency that the structure may have completed, and then if the news doesn't favor CAD Canadian dollar, then you are going to be having price flushing and moving aggressively to the upside. So now with that, let's also look at GDP CAD. GDP CAD, where GDP CAD, that should be this one. So now on the GDP card, remember that the pounds is expected to be strong, and then the card is most likely neutral or bearish. And so based on that, I've drawn a support line where there's every tendency that price will be reacting around here, especially if GDP becomes very, very strong. But usually very good to have some allowance. So let's give that allowance to somewhere around here. I'm just going to be drawing a line instead of this. So let's give that allowance to somewhere around here for price to get to and want to reverse. So with that, we can go to the lower time frame, which is going to be the 1 hour, and then we can look at what to expect from price. So is that a price react exactly from here and go up, or price just push down a little based on getting to around here, price push down a little to around here and go up. So overall, we're expecting a bearish card and then a bullish pounds, and so we should be expecting a reversal formation around this zone for the pounds card. And then for the card yen, let me see the card yen. Do I have the card yen here? Yes. So for the card yen, starting from the daily time frame, you would see that the card has been stronger than the yen all this while. And then the yen also is most likely going to be weak for some time. And so what we may most likely be having around here is a sideways correction pattern for the two pairs. That means you're going to be expecting sideways correction pattern for the two pairs where price is most likely going to be dancing in a range. So what then happens is that at the time that the card is going to be strong, you expect that price would get to somewhere around here and then sell off. And then as at the time that the yen will be strong, you expect that price will start coming down. And then when cards become strong again, this will happen. So if you are looking for how to trade in a range, then this is a very good trade setup for you, where you're going to be selling around here, and then you're going to be buying around here for the coming week. Let's look at what we have on the 1 hour time frame. Let's look at that 1 hour and see 1 hour time frame. Okay, so for the 1 hour time frame, we're just expecting price to move slightly up. So most likely up here, and then when it gets to the support to the resistance area right here, we'll be looking for sell. So for me, if I'm going to be selling the card yen, I'll be waiting for price to get to this area for me to be able to get in properly. Yeah, so then the next index that we're going to be analyzing is the old index. So for the old index, you can see that all this while, old has been very, very strong, has been very, very strong, has been moving upwards, and then there's a tendency that it's going to be pulling back, even if you want to then continue the move to the upside. So there's no news surrounding the Australian currency for this week. And so it means that when you have any other currency like the news for the pounds or for the USD or for the card that's becomes strong than that becomes strong during the course of the week, you may most likely have that pullback happening. And so on the 1 hour time frame too, we will expect that price is already reacting to reversing around that zone. So that's why for me, I'm expecting a weak Australian currency in the course of the week. And so based on that expectation, it means that if we go to GDP AUD, we should be looking at buying GDP AUD right here. For the AUD USD, is most likely going to be trading in a range. That means, let me go to the 4 hours so that we'll see the structure clearly. So for the 4 hours right here, you can see that price has gotten to a key resistance area, and then it's most likely going to be pushing back a little. And so we also have an harmonic pattern there, and this is most likely going to be forming. So what then means is that at any time that you have a strong USD, strong not in terms of fundamental, But in terms of technical setup and sentimental analysis, where people just decide to buy USD, then you may most likely be having the sell coming around here. So even if I want to trade this trade setup, I will be looking for a sell setup on this pair and not a buy at all, because it has gotten to a key resistance area within the structure that suggests it's going to be selling soon. And then the next one there is the GDP AUD. So for the GDP AUD, if we go to the daily time frame, we can draw our key level around here, which is where we expect that price may most likely get to, and reverse. I can draw another one around here too. Those are the two key areas where I expect price to get to and reverse. So on the 4 hours time frame right here, I'm going to be drawing a structure, which is the corrective pattern that price has formed in the course of the week right here. And then it broke below that support zone. And so the best way to trade this is to wait for price to get to this area. So when price get here, then we are looking for a bullish reversal formation when pounds becomes weak and when pounds becomes strong. But if we don't have that bullish setup for us to go long, then we want to wait for it to get to somewhere around here for us to then look for the proper buy setup. So for me, I'll be looking at a bullish setup only for the pound AUD. And then let's go to the 1 hour time frame. Let's see whether we even have something that's already forming there. So for the 1 hour time frame, nothing has been formed yet, but I'm sure that when we go to the lower time frame, we'll see a reversal formation already forming. But most likely price will get to somewhere around here before it eventually then shows some kind of bullish reversal. So on the 15 minutes time frame, let me see whether we even have anything brewing. So yes, on the 15 minutes time frame, we already have price, giving us some kind of reversal formation, but it's not going to reverse immediately. It's going to still further dance to somewhere around here before it eventually sell. So it may flush down to somewhere around here, and then pull it up, then going some sideways before it eventually then starts the proper reversal. Okay, so that's how we're going to be trading that. For the pounds, or I'm going to be looking at going long. And so the next index that we're going to be analyzing right there is the Swiss francs. So for the Swiss francs, I'm not even going to be, the reason why I don't usually trade the Swiss francs related pair anyway, the reason why I decided to plug this is to look at the possibility of going long on the US dollar Swiss francs and pounds Swiss francs this week. And so if you look at my chart, you see that I just plug in the US dollar Swiss francs. I think I can even then add the GDP Swiss there, so that we'll look at the two of them together. Yeah. So for the I'm just getting to see this chart right now. I've not even seen it for over a year. I just how interesting it is. I've not seen it for a very long time. But based on what I can see right here, I could see that price has bounced off a little from the initial low, and then it just cooling off a little to continue the upward movement. So as at the time I was analyzing the price chart, I could see that there's a possibility that the Swiss francs is going to be weak, and that was why I was looking at possibility of taking a position that relates to the Swiss francs. So for this, I'm just going to be drawing this right here. I'm going to be drawing this. And then I'm also going to be drawing this. So what it means is that as at the time that the pound is very strong, we are most likely going to be seeing a buy on this pair. So we are going to be looking for long positions only on the Swiss francs, and I will pray that it first come back to this area to give a retest around here. It will give a retest around here, then I'm going to be going long from that point. Once it comes back and retests around this place, then I'm looking for that long position. And then for the US dollar streets, which is going to be this, I also start from the daily time frame. And then I can see that it's very close to what we saw on the US dollar streets front. And we are most likely going to be having a breakout from this structure, just like we have it in the pound streets. We are going to be having that later on. But this is not going to be happening immediately. We are currently having a very weak USD, so I don't expect it to break out that easily. But for now, we should just try to be in a buy position. So when price gets here, let me go to the 1 hour time frames for us to be able to see how to trade that. So there's every tendency that price may have gotten to this place before we even start, by the time we wake up tomorrow. So there's every tendency that price may have gotten to this way. So I'm not going to be looking for a sell position right there, especially because Swiss francs, there's no fundamental that suggests or supports the strength. But if price come down to somewhere around here and give a reversal formation, then I will want to be in this trade, because you don't know when that breakout will happen. That's going to be giving you very, very big amounts of money. So you don't want to miss that opportunity. So you want to buy, is that you buy it when it comes, if it traces around here, you buy it, or if it get to this point without retracing, you wait for it to come back to this point, to this support zone before getting in. So that's about that. And then last but not the least is going to be the gold chart, the almighty gold. So for the almighty gold, well, it is it's very, very easy to understand the fact that the gold chart is usually negatively correlated to the US dollar. So most of the time when people pull out from USD, they go to the safe haven and buy gold. And so at any time that we have US dollar being very, very weak, especially after the news of FOMC on Wednesday, and then the news becomes quite bearish for the USD, then we want to be looking at going long on the gold chart. Gold has been bullish all this while, as you guys know, as you guys have seen. Gold has been bullish. So I'm just going to be drawing that that support line for me to know where exactly it may most likely get to at the very worst case scenario and buy off. So for me, I usually like to draw two lines. The first one being there, and the second one is an extended one if price doesn't respect that zone. So I am looking for a buy on this metal. I'm looking for a buy setup. So for that one, is that we have price immediately reacting to this already starting bullish formation, or I pray that it actually comes down to somewhere around here. If I'm able to get price to come down to this area, I'll be looking at going long on the USD. But if it gets to this point and doesn't slow down, and then I'll be looking at taking a proper buy position around this zone. But if I take the two and then it still doesn't go, I might most likely have to leave it. But the worst case scenario is that we may most likely get in around this point. But structure suggests that this is going to be going bullish. And then by the time we get to the lower time frame, we'll start seeing structures that will be forming that support that bullish formation. Let's go to the 15 minutes time frame and see what we have been having. So we have price move here and then doing some kind of pullback. But this pullback right now is not suggesting any bullish formation yet at all. So if this is going to be going bullish, then this has to hold. That means price must not break below this point. And then this will be the initial high, so that if price gets to this point, and doesn't break it, then we want it to come back to retest either this area or this area. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that if we come back to that area, we are going to be having a structure that looks like the harmonic pattern that some of you guys already know. So if we get back to this point, I'll be very happy. But if it doesn't get back to this point and show some kind of buy setup around here, I'll take that buy, but I'll be watching out for that. If it doesn't really go far, then it means that we're going to be looking at that big picture of coming to properly buy around that support zone. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoy the market analysis session. We find it very, very useful. You can share it, on your channel, on your page or whatsoever, and then feel free to join us in the WhatsApp group if you are not yet part of us. I'm going to be dropping the link right there for us to be able to take parts, for us to be able to join the group. And then don't forget that I've also dropped the what do you call it? My bias for the week. I've also dropped it in the group. And then this is what I'm going to be looking at trading in the course of the week. So enjoy your trading for this week. And then in the course of the week, I'll also send updates based on how price develops or unfold. Cheers and bye.